Hi everyone, welcome back to my kitchen for another Tasty Tuesday. And today, instead of traveling somewhere around the world, I'm going to share with you a winter comfort food recipe that I created a few years ago, combining two of my favorite soups, Italian wedding soup and chicken noodle soup. And both of these soups have really wonderful flavor profiles, and I'm going to show you how I've created this recipe to combine them. And the great thing is we're using a rotisserie chicken today. You can use your own chicken breast, chicken thighs, whatever, but I'm using a rotisserie chicken today. This would also work with turkey. So we're going to get started. This recipe, by the way, makes like 12 servings. You can cut it in half, but it's if you want to make that much, you need a big stock pot like this. And in my stock pot, I have 6 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, we are going to saute our veg before we do anything else. We're starting with, let's see, I think this is 2 cups, or it's 1.5 yellow onions that I have chopped up. And I have 1.5 cups of sliced carrots, 1 cup of diced red pepper. This is about 1.5 cups sliced celery. Now we're going to get that started on the stovetop on a medium-high heat and start getting those flavors all mixed together, and then we'll add a couple more things. So our veg has been on the stove for about 10 minutes, and now I'm going to add 3 small garlic cloves. No, excuse me, 4 garlic cloves that I have chopped up. And I have here a cup of fresh parsley. I'm going to use about 2/3 of that, and the rest I'm going to save for garnish for later. And now we're going to let that cook for just another couple of minutes. So it's a nasty, rainy week here in the Pacific Northwest, and that's what made me think I should make some soup. And we have company coming in a few days, and it's one thing about any soups or stews that you make, always try to make it ahead of time. Give it 24, even 48 hours in the fridge before you serve it. This recipe also freezes really well. So I'm making about enough for 12 people, and I'll still probably have some extra to put in the freezer. So our veg is now pretty much done, and I have purchased chicken stock, not broth, stock, because it's always, to me, better for soups. It's nice and rich. If you have chicken broth, that's fine too, and even better if you make your own. So we're going to start with 64 ounces of chicken stock, and then I know I'm going to need to add a little bit more later, but we're going to put this in for starters. Okay, we're going to let that cook, bring it up to boil, probably take about 10 minutes, and then we're going to add the pasta. Our chicken stock is boiling away with our veg, and now I'm going to add 2 cups of rotini pasta. I've said before that I prefer to use fresh pasta, but I can't find rotini in my store fresh, and I really like rotini in this recipe. The flavors just cling to these little spirals, and I love it. So I'm using 2 cups of dried rotini, and that'll cook for about 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you what's next. Our next ingredient is kale. Now, in an Italian wedding soup, they always use spinach. You could use spinach in this recipe. I just happen to have kale in the fridge that I really wanted to use. The thing about kale, you really need to try to get those little pieces of stem out, because even if you cook it for a long time, those can be really tough. So I've worked really hard, oops, here, I found one, to try to get these out of the kale. And that's now going into our stock pot with the rest of our goodies. We haven't even added the meat yet. It's coming up next. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up with the last few ingredients. I just tested to see how we were for salt. I wanted to get all the ingredients in there and meld before I put the salt in. You might wanna salt a little bit more at the very end before you serve, but right now I am adding 2 teaspoons salt, 2 teaspoons dried oregano, and a half teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper. And now next, we are adding 4 cups of shredded rotisserie chicken. You, of course, can use your own cooked chicken. You don't have to use rotisserie. I've turned the pot down to low. I want this to just simmer now. And now this, when I make Italian wedding soup, I make meatballs out of mild Italian sausage. I didn't make the meatballs, I just am putting a pound of mild Italian sausage that I've already cooked into the pot, and it has some wonderful Italian flavors already in it. In it goes. There is a lot of ingredients in this pot. And now is when I'm going to add a little bit more chicken broth, chicken stock. So I'm gonna just eyeball it, maybe a cup. And I'm gonna put the rest of this in my fridge, and tomorrow when we eat it, right before serving, I might add a little bit more. So we still have 1 ingredient left, and it's kind of a crazy one. So let's make sure we even have room for it in our stock pot. Oh, this is smelling so good on a cold and rainy day. That sausage especially. So our last ingredient is a can of cream of chicken soup. This is going to add even more flavor, but also a creaminess. Some recipes you'll find, chicken noodle soup, you'll find they add cream cheese. I didn't want to do that. So when I was creating this recipe, I started adding cream of chicken soup, and it's just a wonderful additional flavor. That is our Italian wedding cream of chicken noodle soup. So I'm going to keep this on low for about 20 minutes, get all the flavors together, and then it's going to go into the refrigerator for at least 24 hours. And when we serve it, I'll come back and show you how it looks. And I know it's going to be delicious. So we'll see you then. So for our dinner tonight, we are having this wonderful homemade soup, sort of Italian wedding soup, sort of chicken noodle soup. Either way, absolutely delicious on a winter night, so full of so many vegetables and flavors and noodles. You're gonna love it. So I hope you'll try this recipe. We're gonna dig in, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for joining me.